Adrian Cross is standing in my apartment doorway at midnight with his daughter asleep against his shoulder, and I'm wearing pajama shorts and an oversized t-shirt with paint stains. Lily's small hand is clutching a drawing she made of me, of us, of the three of us together like a family. She had a nightmare, he says, and his voice cracks on the word. She kept signing your name. I didn't know what else to do. This is not protocol. I'm her art therapist. I have boundaries, contracts, professional ethics that are currently dissolving as this 7-year-old who hasn't spoken in 3 years makes a small sound in her sleep. My name, barely a whisper. And her father looks at me like I'm the only thing keeping them both afloat. 6 weeks ago, I'd never heard of Adrian Cross. Now I'm standing here realizing I've fallen in love with both of them, and I'm about to cross a line I can never uncross. Let me tell you how it started. I'd been working with Lily Cross for exactly 4 weeks when she painted her first smile. Not smiled herself. She still hadn't spoken, hadn't made eye contact with anyone except me, and even that had taken 2 weeks of sitting in silence while she pushed watercolors around paper like they might bite her. But today, Thursday afternoon, in the art therapy room I'd set up in Adrian Cross's ridiculous penthouse, she'd painted a yellow sun with a curved line underneath it, a smile. I was staring at it, my throat tight with something unprofessional, when Adrian appeared in the doorway. He always did that, materialized without sound, like he was afraid of taking up too much space in his own home. For a man who commanded boardrooms and tech empires, he moved around his daughter like she was made of spun glass. "Is that—" He stopped. His tie was loosened, his dark hair disheveled in that way that probably cost $500 to achieve, but I suspected was just exhaustion. At 39, Adrian Cross looked like a man who'd been running on empty for years. Did she paint that? She did. I kept my voice soft. Lily was at the window now, watching pigeons on the terrace, her small shoulders relaxed in a way they never were when other people were around. It's her first representational image. Before this, everything was just abstract color and movement. He moved closer, and I caught that scent, expensive cologne and coffee and something warmer underneath. I'd learned to recognize when he'd been in a room. It was becoming a problem. What does it mean? I glanced at him. His eyes, storm gray, constantly worried, were fixed on his daughter's painting like it held the secrets of the universe. Maybe it did. It means she's starting to see the world as a place where happiness exists again. I stood, wiping my hands on my paint-stained jeans. It's a good sign, Mr. Cross. Adrian, he said it quietly. I've asked you 3 times to call me Adrian. That wouldn't be appropriate. Elena. The way he said my name made something flutter in my chest. Definitely a problem. You've spent more time with my daughter in the past month than anyone else in 3 years. You've gotten her to paint, to sit still, to look at you. She waits by the door on Tuesdays and Thursdays an hour before you arrive. Appropriate went out the window when she started sleeping through the night since— He stopped, swallowed. Please, just Adrian. The apartment was too quiet. Lily was absorbed in watching pigeons, giving us this strange bubble of privacy that felt dangerous. Okay, I said, Adrian. Something shifted in his expression. Relief, maybe, or something else I wasn't ready to name. She asks about you, he said suddenly, in her way. She points to your coat when it's not Tuesday or Thursday. She draws pictures of you. Her therapist, her actual therapist, says it's the most emotional engagement she's shown since— He couldn't finish that sentence either. Since her mother died. Since the car accident that took Catherine Cross and left a 7-year-old silent and a grown man shattered. I'm trying to say thank you, and that I know this is just a contract, but you're her father, and you want to know if it's real. I understood that fear. I'd built my whole career on understanding what people were too afraid to ask. It's real. Lily is connecting with me because I don't expect anything from her. I don't need her to talk or smile or be okay. I just show up and let her exist however she needs to. Is that what you do? Just let people exist? The question was too intimate, too searching. I should have deflected, kept it professional, reminded him I was just the art therapist he'd hired because 5 other specialists had failed. Instead, I said, "Someone did that for me once, when my parents divorced and I thought the world was ending. My grandmother, she just sat with me, didn't try to fix it, didn't tell me it would be okay, just stayed." "Your grandmother," he said it like he was memorizing details. "Is she—" "She passed away when I was 19. Why was I telling him this? But she taught me that sometimes the most powerful thing you can do for someone is just witness them. Let them know they're not alone." Adrian was quiet for a long moment. Lily made a soft sound at the window. Not words, just a hum of contentment, and we both turned to look at her. "I don't know how to do that," he said finally, "how to just be with her without trying to fix everything." "You're doing it right now." He looked at me then, really looked, and I saw the exhaustion and grief and desperate hope all tangled together. This was a man who'd lost his wife and was terrified of losing his daughter to silence. A man who probably hadn't let himself be vulnerable with anyone since the funeral. A man I had no business wanting to comfort. "Same time Thursday?" I said, breaking the moment. "Professional. Boundaries." "Thursday," but he didn't move. "Elena, if she ever needs more than twice a week, or if you think, I don't care about the contract or the hours, whatever she needs, I'll let you know." I gathered my bag, my coat, carefully not looking at him as I headed for the door. Lily turned as I passed, and for just a second our eyes met. She gave me the smallest nod, permission to leave, trust that I'd come back. It wasn't until I was in the elevator descending from the penthouse to the real world that I let myself acknowledge what I'd been denying for 2 weeks. I was already in too deep with both of them. Let me back up. 6 weeks earlier, I was 3 months behind on student loans and seriously considering whether art therapy had been a practical career choice when my former professor called with what she described as an opportunity you can't refuse. "Private client," Dr. Sarah Chen had said, "selective mutism case, 7-year-old. Mother deceased, father is, well, he's Adrian Cross." I'd been eating ramen in my studio apartment, wrapped in a blanket because I was conserving heat. The name meant nothing to me. "Should I know who that is?" Sarah had actually laughed. "Google him, then call me back." Adrian Cross, tech billionaire, CEO of Cross Tech Industries, 39, widowed 3 years ago when his wife Catherine died in a car accident, 1 daughter, Lily, age 7, private to the point of reclusiveness, worth an estimated $2.3 billion. The photos showed a man with dark hair, sharp features, and eyes that looked tired even in professional shots. In every image with his daughter, his hand was on her shoulder, protective and careful. The contract Sarah forwarded was absurd. $20,000 for 8 weeks of art therapy, twice weekly, 2-hour sessions, location at his penthouse. Renewal option, if progress was shown. NDA included. $20,000. I could pay off my loans, buy supplies, maybe even afford to fix the heat in my apartment. But the real reason I said yes wasn't the money. It was the photo I found buried in a tech magazine article. Lily Cross at her mother's funeral, silent and small, her hand in her father's, both of them looking like they'd been hollowed out. I knew that look. I'd seen it in the mirror when I was 10 and my father moved across the country, when I realized that sometimes people leave and they don't come back, and you're just supposed to keep existing in a world that's fundamentally changed. The first session had been a disaster. Adrian had shown me to what he called the playroom, a space that looked like a child psychology textbook had exploded. Every therapeutic toy, every recommended art supply, everything carefully arranged and completely untouched. The last therapist said she needs structure, he'd explained, hovering in the doorway while Lily sat motionless on a chair, staring at nothing. And the one before that said she needs freedom, and the one before— He stopped. I don't know what she needs. Lily was tiny for 7, with her mother's delicate features and her father's dark hair. She wore a blue dress that looked expensive and uncomfortable, her feet in patent leather shoes that probably cost more than my rent. She looked like a doll someone had posed and forgotten. "Mr. Cross," I'd said gently, "could you give us some privacy?" But the other therapist said, "I know, and I'm sure they're all excellent, but Lily and I need to figure each other out, and that's hard to do with an audience." He hesitated, clearly torn between protocol and instinct. Finally, "I'll be in my study, down the hall." When he left, I'd looked at Lily. She didn't look back. "Okay," I'd said to the room, to the air, to this silent child who'd been poked and prodded by specialists for 3 years. "Here's what's going to happen. I'm going to set up some art supplies over here. You can use them or not use them. You can talk to me or not talk to me. You can sit there or move around or leave the room. The only rule is you get to decide." Silence. I'd spent the next hour setting up my supplies, not the fancy ones in the playroom, but my own battered watercolors, my worn brushes, my paper that had creases and character. I'd painted my own abstract piece, humming softly, letting her watch or not watch. At the 90-minute mark, Lily had stood up, walked to my setup, and picked up a brush. She didn't paint anything, just held it, but it was the first time she'd moved in an hour and a half. When Adrian returned, I said, "Same time Thursday?" "She didn't do anything," he said, and I heard the desperation underneath. Another failure, another specialist who couldn't fix his daughter. "She held a brush," I'd replied. "That's something." By week 3, Lily was painting. Not talking, not making eye contact, but the watercolors had become her language. Angry reds and dark blues at first, then gradually softer colors, purples and pinks. And then, week 4, that yellow sun with its curved smile. Which brought me to week 5, Tuesday afternoon, when everything started to shift. I arrived at the penthouse with my bag of supplies to find Adrian in the kitchen staring at a burnt pot of macaroni and cheese with an expression of complete defeat. "Rough day?" I said, setting my bag on the counter. He looked up, startled. "You're early." "Traffic was light." I moved closer to assess the damage. The pot was definitely dead. "Lunch attempt?" "Lily won't eat anything except this specific brand of macaroni and cheese, and He gestured helplessly at the smoking pot. "I forgot it. I was on a conference call and—" "Where is she?" "Her room. She's upset. She won't come out." I could see the tension in his shoulders, the exhaustion in his eyes. "When did you eat last?" "I—" He paused. "Yesterday?" "Adrian, I had coffee this morning." I moved to the refrigerator, scanning the contents. Meal prep containers, fancy yogurts, things that looked like they'd been ordered from some organic delivery service and never touched. "Do you know how to make grilled cheese?" "I can build a tech empire, but I can't make grilled cheese without burning it." "Good thing I can." I pulled out butter, cheese, bread. "Go take a shower. You smell like smoke and stress. I'll handle lunch." He stared at me. "You don't have to. I'm not leaving Lily upset, and you're not going to be any use to her if you collapse from exhaustion. Go." For a moment, I thought he might argue. Then his shoulders dropped and he nodded. Thank you. 20 minutes later, I had 2 grilled cheese sandwiches made, and Lily coaxed out of her room with the promise of painting while we ate. She appeared in the kitchen doorway, eyes red from crying, and signed something I was starting to recognize. Where's Dad? Shower, I said. He's okay. He just had a rough morning. She looked at the sandwich on the plate, then at me, then back to the sandwich. I know it's not your usual lunch, but sometimes when things go wrong, we adjust. That's okay. Being flexible is brave. Lily approached slowly, climbed onto the chair, and took a small bite. Then another. That's when Adrian reappeared, hair damp, wearing jeans and a t-shirt that made him look younger and somehow more vulnerable. He stopped when he saw us at the table. You cooked, he said to his daughter. I grilled cheese. There's a difference. I gestured to the third plate. Sit. He sat. Lily watched him take a bite of sandwich, and something passed between them, a moment of normalcy they'd probably been missing for 3 years. This is the best grilled cheese I've ever had, Adrian said to his daughter. She almost smiled. Almost. We ate in comfortable silence, and when Lily finished, she tugged my sleeve and pointed to the art supplies. Permission to start our session. Go ahead, I said. Set up while I clean up. She padded off to the playroom, and Adrian stood to help with dishes. You don't have to, I started. You made lunch. I can clean a plate. He moved beside me at the sink, close enough that I could feel the warmth of him, smell his shampoo, something clean and woodsy. Can I ask you something? Sure. How did you know what to do just now with her? I rinsed a plate, considering. I didn't. I just know what it's like to have your whole world feel out of control. Sometimes you just need someone to show up and make a grilled cheese and tell you it's okay that things aren't perfect. Is that what your grandmother did? I glanced at him, surprised he remembered. Among other things, you must miss her. Every day. But she taught me something important. Showing up is half the battle. The other half is just being willing to sit in the mess with someone without trying to fix it. Adrian was quiet, drying the plate with more attention than it needed. He set the plate down carefully. I'm not good at that, the not fixing part. I solve problems for a living, build systems, create solutions. But with Lily, he set the plate down carefully. Nothing I do helps. You're helping right now. You're here. You're trying. That matters more than you know. He turned to look at me, and we were suddenly very close in the small space between sink and counter. His eyes were that storm gray again, searching my face like he was looking for answers I wasn't qualified to give. Elena. Lily appeared in the doorway, paintbrush in hand, signing emphatically. Come on. The moment broke. Adrian stepped back. I grabbed a towel to dry my hands. Duty calls, I said, aiming for lightness. But as I left the kitchen, I could feel his eyes on me, and something had shifted between us that I wasn't sure either of us was ready for. The breakthrough came on a Tuesday in week 6. I'd just helped Lily finish a painting of what I was fairly certain was the park near the building. Trees, a playground, pigeons. When she did something she'd never done before. She picked up a piece of paper and started drawing something specific, not abstract, not just colors and shapes. A person, a woman with long hair. She drew carefully, her small tongue poking out in concentration. Then she added another figure, a small girl holding the woman's hand. My throat went tight. I knew what this was, who this was. Is that you and your mom? I asked softly. Lily nodded. It was the first direct acknowledgement she'd made of her mother since I'd started working with her. She's beautiful. You're both beautiful. Lily stared at the drawing for a long moment. Then she picked up a red crayon and drew a heart between the two figures. You miss her, I said. Another nod. Her eyes were filling with tears. That's okay. That's really, really okay, Lily. Missing someone means they mattered. It means you loved them." The tears spilled over. Lily made a sound, not words, but a small, broken noise that came from somewhere deep in her chest. 3 years of silence, 3 years of grief coming out in that one sound. I didn't think. I just opened my arms, and she collapsed into them, sobbing. I held her while she cried, rocking slightly, humming the lullaby my grandmother used to sing to me. Lily's small body shook with the force of all that held-back grief, and I let it release it, stroking her hair, telling her without words that she was safe, that I had her. I don't know how long we sat like that. Long enough that my legs went numb, long enough that Lily's sobs turned to hiccups, then to quiet breathing. Long enough that when I looked up, Adrian was standing in the doorway, tears streaming down his own face. He'd been listening, watching his daughter finally grieve. When Lily pulled back from me, exhausted, but somehow lighter, she looked at her father, really looked at him, maybe for the first time in years. She signed, "I miss Mommy." Adrian crossed the room in 3 strides and dropped to his knees in front of her. "I miss her too, sweetheart, so much." Lily reached for him, and he pulled her into his arms, holding her like she might disappear. Over her head, his eyes met mine, and the raw gratitude and grief and something else I couldn't name nearly broke me. I stood quietly, giving them space, gathering my supplies with shaking hands. This was it. This was the moment Lily had needed, not just to process her grief with me, but to share it with her father, to let him in. My job was technically done. She'd broken through. So why did it feel like my heart was cracking open? I was almost to the door when Adrian's voice stopped me. "Elena, don't go." I turned. He was still holding Lily, but he was looking at me with an intensity that made my pulse stutter. "I should give you two some time. Please." Just that one word, but it was loaded with everything we weren't saying. So I stayed. I sat back down, and Lily crawled from her father's arms to mine, then patted the floor between us. An invitation. A bridge. Adrian moved to sit where she'd indicated, and suddenly we were in a small circle. Father, daughter, and me. Not quite a family, but not quite separate either. Lily picked up her drawing of her and her mother and showed it to Adrian. He studied it carefully. "You drew this?" His voice was rough with emotion. She nodded. "It's beautiful. You're so talented, just like she was." He touched the heart she'd drawn. "Your mom loved you so much, Lily. She would be so proud of you." Lily leaned against my shoulder, one hand reaching out to touch her father's knee, connecting us, connecting all of us. "She would be proud of you too," I said quietly to Adrian, "for keeping going, for showing up for her every day even when it hurt. That's love too." He looked at me, and I saw it then, the exact moment he realized what I'd been trying not to acknowledge for weeks. We were in too deep. Both of us. This wasn't professional anymore. Maybe it never had been. "You're good at this, at knowing what people need to hear. I'm just saying what's true." Lily yawned, the emotional exhaustion hitting her. Adrian glanced at the clock. Somehow it was already 6 p.m. We'd been sitting here for over an hour. "Someone needs dinner and bed," he said gently to his daughter. Lily looked up at me with those big, dark eyes and signed something I'd never seen before. Adrian grew very still. "What did she say?" I asked. "She asked," he cleared his throat, "she wants to know if you can stay for dinner." My professional instincts screamed at me to decline, to maintain boundaries, to remember this was a contract, not a family. But Lily was looking at me with such hope, and Adrian was carefully not looking at me at all. and I could feel the moment balancing on a knife's edge. "If it's not an imposition, I'd like that," I heard myself say.
Dinner was pizza ordered from some place that apparently had the good kind, according to Adrian, and eating it at the kitchen island with Lily between us felt dangerously normal, dangerously right. Lily was more animated than I'd ever seen her, pointing at things, signing to both of us, occasionally making small sounds that weren't quite words, but were closer than she'd been. The grief session had released something in her. She was exhausted, but present in a way she hadn't been before. "She's different," Adrian said quietly, while Lily was focused on picking pepperoni off her pizza slice. "Since she cried, since she—" He stopped. "Thank you doesn't feel like enough." "You don't have to thank me. This is what I do." "No." He turned to face me fully. "This is who you are. There's a difference." I didn't know what to say to that, didn't know how to explain that something had shifted in me, too, over the past 6 weeks, that I'd started looking forward to Tuesdays and Thursdays with an intensity that had nothing to do with the paycheck, that I dreamed about this apartment, this child, this man who looked at me like I'd hung the moon when all I'd done was show up. Lily tugged my sleeve, pointed to her empty glass. "Milk." "I'll get it," Adrian and I said simultaneously, then both stopped, laughing awkwardly. "You get the milk. I'll clear the plates." We moved around the kitchen like we'd choreographed it, and I was suddenly viscerally aware of how domestic this was, how much it felt like playing house, how much I wanted it to be real. Lily finished her milk and yawned again, leaning heavily against my side. "Someone's ready for bed," Adrian observed. "Someone had a big day," I said, smoothing Lily's hair back. She turned her face into my shoulder, trusting and sleepy, and something in my chest squeezed so tight I could barely breathe. This was what I'd been missing my whole life. This casual intimacy, this sense of belonging, this feeling of being needed and wanted and essential to someone's happiness. "I should go," I made myself say, "let you do your bedtime routine." But when I tried to shift away, Lily's hand caught mine. She looked up at me, then at her father, then back to me and signed something clearly, deliberately. Adrian's face went carefully blank. "Lily, Elena probably needs to—" She signed it again, more insistently. "What did she say?" I asked. "She wants—" He rubbed his face. "She wants you to stay for bedtime, read her a story." The boundaries, the contract, the professional distance I was supposed to maintain. "If that's okay with you," I said to Adrian. His eyes met mine, and I saw the same war I was fighting reflected there. This was dangerous. This was crossing a line. This was going to hurt when it ended. "It's okay with me," he said quietly. So I stayed. I followed them to Lily's bedroom, a space I'd only glimpsed before, decorated in soft purples and whites, with glow-in-the-dark stars on the ceiling and a bookshelf overflowing with stories. Lily picked out a picture book and climbed into bed, patting the space beside her. I sat on the edge of the bed, and she immediately curled into my side. Adrian stood in the doorway, watching. I read the story, something about a brave little rabbit, and when I finished, Lily was drowsy but still awake, her small hand wrapped around my fingers. "Good night, sweetheart," I whispered, kissing the top of her head without thinking. She squeezed my hand 3 times. "I love you." I'd learned that one in my first week of working with children. 3 squeezes, the silent language of affection. My eyes burned. I squeezed back 3 times. When I stood to leave, Lily was already drifting off, a small smile on her face. Adrian walked me to the front door, and we stood in the foyer in the kind of charged silence that begged to be broken. "Adrian, Elena." We both stopped, both almost laughed. "You first," he said. "I was just going to say, today was a big breakthrough for Lily, for her grief. She's processing her grief in a healthy way now. That's huge." "But?" How did he know there was a but? "But I'm worried about what happens when the contract ends, when she doesn't see me twice a week anymore, when she has to adjust to me not being part of her daily life. I forced myself to meet his eyes. I'm worried about her getting attached to someone who's temporary. Are you? He moved closer. Temporary? My heart was pounding. That's what the contract says. The contract ends in 2 weeks. I know. And if I don't want it to end? The question hung between us, loaded with everything we'd been dancing around for weeks. Elena, I know this is complicated. I know you have professional ethics and boundaries, and probably a dozen reasons why this is a bad idea. But Elena, you've become essential to Lily, to... He stopped, started again. I haven't felt this alive in 3 years. I wake up on Tuesdays and Thursdays actually looking forward to the day. I find myself thinking about what you'd say in meetings, how you'd handle situations. Lily draws you when you're not here. She waits by the door an hour before you arrive. That's attachment, Adrian. That's what I'm worried about. Maybe, he said, so close I could see the gray flecks in his blue eyes. Maybe it's what it looks like when 2 people who've been alone too long find someone who fits. I'm her therapist. The contract ends in 2 weeks, and then you're not. And then I'm just, what? A friend? A fixture in your life? Someone who... I stopped, my throat tight. Someone who matters, he finished, to both of us. Someone we can't imagine not having around. I wanted to say yes. I wanted to close the distance between us and let myself fall into whatever this was. But the fear was there too, sharp and familiar. What if I wasn't enough? What if this was just gratitude and proximity? What if I let myself love them both and then they realized I was just a placeholder, just a temporary fix for a permanent problem? I need to think, I whispered. Okay, but he didn't move away. Elena, for what it's worth, I think you're scared for the same reason I am, because this is real, because it matters, because losing it would hurt. He was right. God help me, he was right. Good night, Adrian. Good night. I made it all the way to the elevator before I let myself cry. I didn't sleep that night. I stared at my ceiling in my tiny apartment and thought about Lily's small hand in mine, about Adrian's words, about the family I was terrified to want because wanting things had always meant losing them. When my phone rang at 6 a.m., I grabbed it without looking. Hello? Elena. Adrian's voice was rough. I'm sorry to call so early, but Lily, she woke up asking for you, signing your name. She's upset, and I don't know, I can't... I'm coming. I was already out of bed, pulling on clothes. 20 minutes. I made it in 15. Adrian opened the door in sweatpants and a t-shirt, hair standing up, exhaustion and worry written across his face. I could hear Lily crying from somewhere deeper in the apartment. What happened? Nightmare, I think. She woke up crying and signing your name, and when I told her it wasn't Tuesday, she got more upset. Elena, she won't let me comfort her. She just keeps asking for you. I followed the sound to Lily's room. She was curled on her bed, tears streaming down her face, and when she saw me, she launched herself across the room and into my arms. I caught her, sinking to the floor, rocking her while she sobbed against my shoulder. I'm here, I murmured. I'm right here, sweetheart. You're okay. She was signing something frantically against my chest. I couldn't make it out at first. Then Adrian, who'd followed us in, translated quietly. She's asking if you're leaving, if you're going away like... He couldn't finish. Like her mother. My heart cracked wide open. No, baby, I'm not going anywhere. I promise. I'm right here. She cried harder, and I held her, looking helplessly at Adrian over her head. He looked devastated, helpless, like watching his daughter need someone else more than she needed him was breaking him all over again. But then Lily did something that surprised us both. She reached out one hand to her father, pulling him closer, until the three of us were tangled together on her bedroom floor. She signed something, and Adrian let out a shaky breath. "What did she say?" I asked. She said, he looked at me with eyes that were suspiciously bright. She said, "My family." Oh, oh no. This was exactly what I'd been afraid of. Lily seeing us as a unit. Lily believing in something that wasn't real. Lily setting herself up for another abandonment. "Lily," I said gently, pulling back enough to see her face. "Sweetheart, you know I care about you so much, and I love spending time with you, but—" She shook her head violently, signing, "No, no, stay, family." "Lily, I can't just—" She put her small hands on my cheeks, looking at me with an intensity that was devastating. Then she took one of my hands and one of Adrian's hands and pressed them together. A bridge, a plea. "Please." I looked at Adrian. He was watching me with an expression I couldn't name, and I realized suddenly that this wasn't just about Lily. It was about all of us, about what we'd been building without meaning to, about the family that had formed in the spaces between professional and personal, between gratitude and something deeper. "Elena," Adrian said quietly, "you once told me that showing up is half the battle. The other half is being willing to sit in the mess without trying to fix it. Can you sit in this mess with us, even though it's complicated, even though it's scary? I'm her therapist. The contract ends next week. And then what? And then we figure it out, together." Lily was watching us both, hope and fear warring in their expression. This was insane. This was professional. This was everything I'd been trained not to do. But it was also the first thing that had felt right in years. "Okay," I whispered. "Okay." Lily threw her arms around my neck. Adrian's hand found the small of my back, and for a moment we were just the three of us, tangled together and terrified and hoping. "Should I make breakfast?" Adrian asked eventually, "or will I burn down the kitchen?" I laughed, watery and overwhelmed. "I'll make breakfast. You two set the table." Lily nodded eagerly, taking her father's hand, and something shifted in Adrian's expression. Relief, joy, the kind of hope that comes with terrible risk. We made it through breakfast, through me calling in sick to my other clients, through the day passing in a strange, suspended bubble where normal rules didn't apply, and we were just three people learning how to be together. When evening came, I knew I should go home, should re-establish boundaries, should think about what I was doing. But Lily asked me to stay for dinner again, and I didn't have the strength to say no. After we put her to bed, together like we'd been doing it for years, Adrian and I stood in his living room, the city lights twinkling below us, the weight of what we were doing pressing down. "I'm scared," I admitted. "Me too. What if we're making a mistake? What if we hurt her? What if we don't?" He moved closer. "What if this is exactly what we're all supposed to find? That's a nice thought, but real life doesn't work that way." "Doesn't it?" He reached out, tucked a strand of hair behind my ear. "I spent 3 years thinking I'd never feel anything again, that I'd be a functional parent and a competent CEO, and that would have to be enough. And then you showed up, in your paint-stained jeans, with your quiet confidence and your ability to see exactly what people need, and suddenly I remembered what it felt like to want something, to hope for something. Elena, I'm not saying I have all the answers. I'm not saying this isn't complicated, but Elena, I can't watch you walk out that door every day and pretend I don't want you to stay." I couldn't breathe, couldn't think, could only feel the pull toward him that I'd been resisting for weeks. "The contract ends next week." "And I know."
And then I'm not her therapist anymore. And I know. And then there's no professional reason I can't. He kissed me, soft and tentative and asking permission, his hand cupping my face like I was something precious. I froze for half a second, my brain screaming about ethics and boundaries and all the reasons this was wrong. Then I kissed him back. It was gentle and terrifying and felt like coming home. His other hand found my waist, pulling me closer, and I let myself sink into it, into him, into the possibility of this impossible thing. When we pulled apart, he rested his forehead against mine. "Stay," he whispered. "Not just tonight. Stay." And God help me, I wanted to. The next week passed in a strange haze. I still came on Tuesday and Thursday for our official sessions, but I also came on Saturday to help with Lily, and on Sunday just to check in. And by the following Tuesday, I'd stopped pretending I had any professional distance left. Lily was blooming. She still wasn't speaking, but she was humming, making sounds, engaging with the world in ways she hadn't before. Her paintings were full of bright colors now, and she'd started painting the three of us together, her, Adrian, and me, always holding hands. The contract ended on Friday. On Saturday, Adrian asked me to stay the weekend. "As what?" I asked, needing to hear him say it. "As you, as Elena, as the woman I'm falling in love with, and the person my daughter adores, and—" He stopped. "I'm doing this wrong. I should have planned this, should have—" I kissed him, cutting off the spiral. "Yes." "Yes?" "Yes, I'll stay. Yes, I'm falling for you too. Yes, I'm terrified. Yes, I want this anyway." So I stayed, and it was easy in a way that scared me, how naturally I fit into their life, how Lily started following me around like a shadow, how Adrian and I developed a rhythm of meals and bedtime and quiet evenings after Lily slept, how it felt like a family. But the fear was there too, lurking underneath, the waiting for the other shoe to drop feeling that I'd carried since childhood. Because people left. My father left, my grandmother died, my ex decided I wasn't worth staying for, and eventually Adrian and Lily would realize I was just a temporary fix, just someone who'd been convenient when they needed someone. I didn't mean to pull back, but I started leaving earlier in the evenings, making excuses about work, keeping just enough distance to protect myself from the inevitable moment when this would end. Adrian noticed. Of course he noticed. "Talk to me," he said one night after I'd declined his invitation to stay for dinner. "What's going on?" "Nothing. I just have things to do." "Elena, don't do this. Don't run away when things get real." "I'm not running away." "You are. You've been doing it for a week. Ever since I told you I was falling in love with you, you've been finding excuses to leave, to keep distance. Why?" "Because I'm scared. Because this is too good. Because people don't stay." I said instead, "I just think we should be realistic about what this is." "What is it, according to you?" I'm just someone who helped Lily, someone who was there when you needed support. That doesn't mean you matter, that this is real." He moved closer, his eyes searching mine. "Elena, I've spent 3 years numb, 3 years going through motions, and then you showed up and everything changed. You think that's just convenience? You think I'm confused about what I feel? I think you're grateful. I think Lily needed help and I provided it, and now you're confusing—" "I'm not confused." His voice was firm. "I know exactly what this is. I know that I wake up thinking about you, that Lily talks about you constantly, as much as she talks anyway, that every time you leave, the apartment feels emptier, that I want you here not because of what you do for my daughter, but because of who you are, because you're kind and funny and see people in ways they don't see themselves, because you make me want to be better, because I'm in love with you." The words hung in the air. I couldn't breathe. "You don't mean that." "I do. And I think you're in love with me too, but you're too scared to admit it because you're waiting for me to leave, to prove what you've always believed about yourself, that you're not enough, that people don't stay." Tears were streaming down my face. "You don't know what you're talking about. Your parents divorced when you were young. Your grandmother died. Your ex left. Everyone you've loved has either left or died, and now you're waiting for it to happen again. You're so busy preparing for the abandonment that you can't see what's right in front of you. Someone who's choosing you. Someone who wants to stay." "Stop!" My voice broke. "Not until you hear me. Elena, you are enough. You are more than enough. You are everything. To Lily, to me, and the only person who doesn't see it is you." I was crying in earnest now, all the fear and hope and desperate want pouring out. What if you're wrong? What if I let myself believe this, and then what? We deal with it together. That's what people do when they love each other. They don't guarantee the future. Nobody can do that. They just choose each other every day, even when it's scary, especially when it's scary. I don't know how to do that. Neither do I. He pulled me into his arms, holding me while I cried, and I felt something in me shift. Not the fear disappearing, that would probably always be there, but the willingness to risk it anyway. The understanding that love wasn't about guarantees, it was about choosing someone despite the risk. "I love you," I whispered into his shoulder. "I'm scared, and it's complicated, and I love you." "I love you too." He kissed me then, and it felt different from the first time, more certain, more real. When we pulled apart, Lily was standing in the hallway in her pajamas, watching us. "Lily," Adrian started, "you should be asleep." But she was smiling, actually smiling, and then she signed something that made Adrian go very still. "What did she say?" I asked. "She said," he looked at me with wonder in his eyes. "She said, 'I knew it,' and then she said, 'Finally.'" I laughed, reaching out to Lily. She ran into my arms, and the three of us stood there together, and it felt less like a beginning and more like a homecoming, like we'd been looking for each other all along.
Things should have been perfect after that, but life doesn't work that way. 2 weeks into our new, undefined relationship, Adrian's mother showed up unannounced. I was in the kitchen making dinner, something I did most evenings now because Adrian could burn water and Lily liked helping me cook, when the doorbell rang. Adrian went to answer it, and I heard a woman's voice, cultured and sharp. "Adrian, you weren't returning my calls." "I've been busy, Mom." "Too busy for family? I had to hear from Martin that you've been seen around town with some woman." I froze. Lily looked up from the vegetables she was cutting with a child-safe knife, her eyes worried. "It's okay," I murmured to her, but my heart was pounding. Adrian appeared in the kitchen doorway, looking tense. Behind him was an elegant woman in her 60s, perfectly dressed, with Adrian's eyes and a brittle smile. "Elena," he said carefully, "this is my mother, Victoria Cross. Mom, this is Elena Mitchell." Victoria's eyes swept over me, taking in my casual clothes, the apron I'd borrowed, the fact that Lily was standing close to me like she was her person. "The art therapist," she said, and there was a world of judgment in those 3 words. "How lovely. And you're still here?" "Elena is," Adrian started. "I'm making dinner," I said, finding my voice. "Would you like to stay?" It was a test, and we all knew it. Victoria's smile sharpened. How domestic. Yes, I think I would like to stay. We have so much to discuss. Dinner was excruciating. Victoria asked pointed questions about my background, my family, my career plans. She mentioned Catherine at least 6 times. Catherine always made the most wonderful roasts, and Catherine had such excellent taste, and Lily must miss her mother terribly. Lily, who'd been eating quietly, suddenly set down her fork and signed something fierce and clear. Victoria blinked. What did she say? She said, Adrian replied, his voice tight, that she does miss her mother, but she's happy now with us. Us? Victoria's eyebrows rose. I see. And how long has this arrangement been going on? We're not discussing this now, not in front of Lily. I'm simply concerned for my granddaughter's well-being. She's been through so much, and now you're introducing strange women into her life. Elena isn't strange, Adrian said sharply. She's... I should go, I stood abruptly. I have work tomorrow anyway. Elena, Adrian started, but I was already gathering my things, my heart hammering, all my fears roaring back to life. This was it. This was the moment when reality intruded, when I was reminded that I wasn't actually part of this family, that I was an outsider who'd been playing house with people who had a life and history I could never be part of. Lily caught my hand, her face crumpling. She signed, "Don't go." "I have to, sweetheart, but I'll see you soon, okay?" She shook her head violently, signing something I couldn't follow through my panic. "I'll call you," Adrian said, his eyes pleading. "Later, we'll talk about this." But as I left, I heard Victoria's voice. "Really, Adrian, a children's therapist. She's nothing like Catherine. Don't you think it's too soon? Lily needs stability, not some girl playing dress-up in her dead mother's kitchen." I made it to the elevator before I started crying. Adrian called 12 times that night. I didn't answer. He showed up at my apartment at 7 a.m. I opened the door because I knew he wouldn't leave. "You didn't answer my calls," he said. I needed to think. About what? About whether this is fair to Lily, whether I'm actually what's best for her, or if I'm just... Don't. He moved into my tiny apartment, and it felt absurd suddenly. This billionaire in my space with its secondhand furniture and peeling paint. Don't let my mother get in your head. She has a point. She has an opinion. There's a difference. Adrian, I can't replace Catherine. I'm not trying to, but nobody's asking you to replace her. Lily's not asking you to be her mother. She's asking you to be Elena. That's all. That's enough. Is it? Because your mother clearly doesn't think so. My mother, he said carefully, has been trying to control every aspect of my life since Catherine died. She picked out the therapists, the nannies, the treatment plans. None of them worked because she was so focused on getting Lily back to normal that she never let her just grieve. You know what worked? You, showing up with paint and patience and zero expectations. You, letting Lily be exactly who she is. You, loving her without needing her to be anything other than herself. I do love her. I know, and she loves you, and so do I, and I don't give a damn what my mother thinks about it. But she's right about one thing. Lily needs stability. And what are we? What is this? I'm your girlfriend who used to be your employee? I'm living between my apartment and yours? What happens if this doesn't work out? Lily loses someone else she loves? So your solution is to leave now, to prove that you're right, that people leave. My solution is to be realistic. Your solution is to be scared. He caught my hands. Alina, I get it. I do. I'm scared too. But you don't get to decide for all of us that this won't work. You don't get to leave Lily, to leave me, because you're afraid of being left first. That's not fair. Life isn't fair. Love isn't fair. It's risk. It's choosing someone even when you can't see the future, even when there are no guarantees. I pulled my hands away, pacing my small living room. What if I can't do this? What if I'm not strong enough? You are. You've been strong your whole life. You survived your parents' divorce. You took care of your grandmother. You built a career helping broken kids. You showed up for Lily when nobody else could reach her. You're the strongest person I know. Then why does this feel so hard? Because it matters. Because you're not just risking yourself anymore. You're risking your heart. And that's terrifying. But Elena, we're worth it. We're worth it. How do you know? I don't, not with certainty, but I know that I wake up every morning grateful you exist. I know that Lily draws pictures of you even on days she doesn't see you. I know that my apartment feels like home now in a way it hasn't since Catherine died, and that's because of you. And I know that I want to build a life with you, even though it's scary. Maybe especially because it's scary. I wanted to believe him, wanted to trust this, but the fear was so loud. What if your mother's right? What if I'm not good enough for this family? Then we tell her she's wrong, together. He cupped my face. Elena, you are my family, you and Lily. That's what matters, not my mother's approval, not what anyone else thinks, just us. I'm scared, I whispered. I know, but please don't let fear win. Don't let it steal this from us. I closed my eyes, feeling the weight of it, the risk, the possibility, the choice. Okay, I said finally. Okay. Okay, you'll stop pulling away? Okay, I'll try. I can't promise I won't get scared again, but you'll let me help. You'll let us help each other. I nodded, and he kissed me, soft and certain. Come home, he said against my lips. Lily's waiting. She wouldn't eat breakfast this morning, just kept signing your name. My heart clenched. Adrian, I know, that's pressure, but Lily needs you, Elena, not as your therapist, as your person, as the woman who makes her feel safe. What if I let her down? Then we deal with it. But you won't. You couldn't if you tried. So I went home, to his apartment that was starting to feel like mine, too. To Lily, who ran into my arms the second she saw me and wouldn't let go. To this family that I was terrified to claim, but couldn't imagine walking away from. To the life I'd been afraid to want. Things were better after that. Not perfect. Adrian's mother still called weekly with thinly veiled criticisms, but better. Real. I started keeping clothes at Adrian's place, then a toothbrush, then my art supplies took over the spare room and Lily started calling it Elena's studio. 3 months in, Lily spoke her first word. We were painting together, just the two of us, while Adrian was at a meeting. She was working on a family portrait, her usual subject lately, and I was sitting beside her, offering colors when she pointed. Elena, she said. Just that. Just my name. But it was clear and certain and the most beautiful sound I'd ever heard. I froze. Lily? Did you just... Elena, she said again, and she was smiling. I love you. I burst into tears. Lily looked alarmed, but I pulled her into my arms, crying and laughing at the same time. I love you too, sweetheart. So, so much. She hugged me back, and when Adrian came home an hour later, she ran to him and said, Daddy, I talked. The look on his face, pure joy, relief, wonder, was something I'd remember forever. That night, after Lily was asleep, Adrian and I sat on the couch in the quiet apartment. She spoke, he said, like he still couldn't quite believe it.
She did. Because of you. Because she was ready. Because she felt safe. Because you made her feel safe. He turned to look at me. Elena, I know we've been taking this slow, being careful, but I need to ask you something. My heart started pounding. Okay. Move in with us, officially. Not just your stuff slowly taking over. You. Be here. Be part of this family for real. Elena, I know it's fast. I know it's scary, but you're already here. You already are family. I'm just asking to make it official. I thought about my tiny apartment with its peeling paint, about the life I'd built carefully, protecting myself, keeping people at arm's length. And then I thought about this place, about Lily's laugh, about Adrian's arms around me, about bedtime stories and Sunday pancakes, and the feeling of belonging I'd been searching for my whole life. Yes, I said. Yes, I'll move in. His smile was blinding. Yeah? Yeah. He kissed me and it felt like a promise, like a beginning, like home. But 6 months into living together, the real crisis came. Catherine's mother, Lily's grandmother, requested a meeting. She wanted to discuss Lily's welfare and this new living arrangement. I'd never met her. Catherine had been an only child, and her mother had lived in London since before Catherine died. But she'd heard about me, and she had concerns. Adrian tried to handle it alone, but Diane Martinez flew to New York specifically to see her granddaughter and meet the woman who'd replaced her daughter. The meeting was tense from the start. Diane was elegant and grieving, with Catherine's bone structure and eyes that held years of loss. "I understand you were Lily's therapist," she said to me over tea in Adrian's living room while Lily was at school. "And now you're, what, her stepmother?" We're not married," I said carefully. "I'm Adrian's partner, and I care about Lily very much." "You care about her? How nice." The words were sharp. "Do you have children of your own?" "No." "Then you can't possibly understand what it means to lose a child, to watch your daughter die and then watch her husband move on like she never existed." "Mom," Adrian started. "No, Adrian, I've been patient. I've waited. But this has gone on long enough. Lily needs stability. She needs professional help, not some girl playing house." "She's speaking now," I said quietly. "Lily, she's speaking. Full sentences. She's making friends at school. She's laughing again. She's healing." Diane's face crumpled. "Because of you?" "Because she was ready. Because she felt safe enough to start letting go of her grief." "And what about Catherine? Does Lily ever talk about her mother, or have you erased her completely?" "We talk about her constantly," Adrian's voice was firm. "Lily has pictures of Catherine in her room. We tell stories. Elena asks about her. She's not trying to replace Catherine. She's just here, loving Lily, loving us." "And when she leaves?" Diane turned to me. "When you realize this isn't the fairy tale you thought it was? When you get bored or find someone your own age or decide you don't want to play mother to someone else's child? What happens to Lily then?" The words hit like arrows, finding every fear I'd been trying to bury. "I'm not going to leave," I said, but my voice wavered. "How do you know? You're 28 years old. You have your whole life ahead of you. Why would you tie yourself to a widower and his traumatized child when you could have anything?" "Because I love them." "Love," she laughed, bitter and hurt. "Love isn't enough. Catherine loved Adrian, she loved Lily, and she still died. She still left. Love doesn't protect anyone from anything." "You're right," I said softly. "It doesn't. But it's still worth it. It's still the most important thing." "Easy to say when you haven't lost anything yet." "I lost my grandmother. I lost my father when he left after the divorce. I've lost people I loved.
And yes, it hurt, but I'd rather risk that pain than live a life without love, without connection, without this. I gestured to the apartment, to the life Adrian and I had built. I can't promise I'll never leave. I can't promise nothing bad will ever happen. But I can promise I'll try. I'll show up. I'll love Lily as fiercely as I know how, and I'll honor Catherine's memory by helping her daughter heal. Diane stared at me, tears tracking down her face. She was my whole world. I know, and she was Adrian's world too, and she was Lily's world, and she'll always be part of this family, always. But Diane, Catherine would want Lily to be happy. She'd want Adrian to live again, wouldn't she? It was a long time before she answered. Yes, she whispered finally. Yes, she would. The tension broke. Diane cried, and I held her hand while she grieved her daughter all over again. When Lily came home from school, she ran to her grandmother with joy, chattering about her day in the uninhibited way of a child who'd found her voice again. Diane's face looked at me over Lily's head, and I saw the acceptance there, the understanding that I wasn't the enemy, that I was just someone who loved her granddaughter. That night, after Diane had gone back to her hotel, Adrian found me in my studio, though we'd started calling it our studio since he'd been spending evenings there watching me work. "That was intense," he said. "Your mother-in-law hates me." "She doesn't. She just misses Catherine." "I know." I set down my brush. "Adrian, what if she's right? What if I can't do this? What if—" Adrian crossed the room, tilting my chin up. "Elena Rose Mitchell, are you about to spiral again?" "Maybe." "What do I do when you spiral?" "What?" "I remember that 3 years ago, my daughter couldn't speak. She couldn't connect. She was drowning in grief, and I didn't know how to save her. And then you walked into our lives with your paint-stained jeans and your infinite patience, and you saved both of us. You taught me how to be a father again. You taught Lily that it's safe to love people even after you've lost someone. You gave us back our lives. So when you ask if you can do this, the answer is you're already doing it. You have been from the start." "I'm still scared." "Good. That means you give a damn. Now come here." He pulled me into his arms, and I let myself be held, let myself believe, just for a moment, that this could be real, that this could last, that I was enough.
1 year later. Lily is 8.5 now, and she talks nonstop, constantly, about everything. Adrian jokes that we've created a monster, but his eyes are full of joy when he says it. We're in the kitchen on a Sunday morning, our favorite time. Lily is helping me make pancakes, chattering about her upcoming art show at school. She takes after me in more ways than one. And Adrian is attempting to brew coffee without destroying something. "Elena?" Lily says, and I still get a thrill every time she says my name out loud. "Can I ask you something?" "Of course, sweetheart." "Are you going to marry Daddy?" I nearly drop the spatula. Adrian freezes mid-pour. We haven't talked about this, haven't discussed where this is going beyond together and for now and we'll figure it out. I start. "Because I think you should," Lily continues matter-of-factly. "Then you'd really be my mom. I mean, you already are, but it would be official." Adrian is looking at me over her head, and I see the question there, the hope, the same fear I'm feeling. "Would you want that?" I ask Lily carefully. "For me to officially be your mom?" "Duh!" She rolls her eyes in that way 8-year-olds do. "You're already my mom. You make my breakfast and read me stories and come to school things and help me with art, and you love Daddy. I can tell." "You can, huh?" "You look at him the way he looks at you, like he's the best thing ever." She pauses. "Plus, you guys are always kissing in the kitchen. It's gross." I laugh, and Adrian moves closer, wrapping his arms around both of us. "What do you think?" he murmurs in my ear. "Want to make it official? Are you proposing in front of your 8-year-old? Would that be weird?" "Extremely." "Good." He pulls back enough to look at me. "Then I'll do it properly later, with a ring and everything. But for the record, I want to marry you, Elena. I want you to be Lily's mom officially. I want us to be a family in every sense of the word, if you'll have us." Lily is watching us with bright, happy eyes. No sadness, no grief, just a child who's found her way back to joy. "Yes," I say, my voice thick with emotion. "Yes, I'll have you, both of you." Lily cheers and throws her arms around us, and we're all laughing and crying at the same time. This weird, wonderful, imperfect family we've built from grief and healing and choosing each other every day. Later, after pancakes, and after Lily goes to her grandmother's for the afternoon, Diane visits monthly now, and she and I have found an unexpected friendship in our shared love for Lily. Adrian and I sit on the couch with coffee, and he asks me something he's never asked before. "Are you happy?" "Yes." "No hesitation? No fear?" "Oh, there's fear. There's always fear. But I'm learning that fear doesn't mean I'm making the wrong choice. Sometimes it just means I care enough to risk it." "When did you get so wise?" "I learned from this guy I know. He's kind of a know-it-all, but he taught me that showing up is half the battle. The other half is being brave enough to stay." He kisses me, soft and certain, and I taste our future in it, the fights and the laughter and the ordinary moments that make a life, the family dinners and bedtime stories and lazy Sunday mornings. The belonging I'd been searching for since I was a child, whose father left and his mother was too busy surviving to see her daughter drowning. "I love you," he says. "I love you too. And for the first time in my life, I believe I'm worth staying for. I believe I'm enough. Not because I'm perfect, not because I fixed anything, but because I showed up, because I chose this family as fiercely as they chose me. Because sometimes the family you're meant to have isn't the one you're born into, it's the one you find, the one you build, the one that chooses you back. And this messy, beautiful, imperfect family is mine."